Welcome to the Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Chairman.
Welcome back to the Chairman's Perspective, where Memphis is certainly on the move. I am your host, Van Turner Jr. My co-host is DC.
I'm right here, Mr. Chairman.
And today we've got a great show. In the studio is Lynn Sittler, who is the commissioner for the Memphis and Shelby County Film and TV Commission. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
R&R on Sports is proud to be on Sirius XM.
So what's R&R stand for?
Real talk and relevant sports issues.
It's racial and relative. We're brothers from the South. We can relate.
R&R on Sports on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
DC, this is going to be a fantastic show.
Yes, sir. It sure is going to be.
I can feel it because today we have none other than Lynn Sittler with us. Hello, Miss Sittler. How are you doing today?
Just fine.
She is great. The guru of film and television.
Film and television. Right. That's right. That's right. And we have some surprises for you all. And let's jump right into it. So, Lynn, tell us a little bit about your compelling biopic, yet to be published. What does the Lynn Sittler story have in store for us?
What the future holds or what the past held? Or
all of that. We want to talk about the Lynn Sittler. I mean, you've been on enough of these movie sets to kind of do some stuff. You know what's going on. What about you? We want to hear about Lynn Sittler.
Oh, well, I used to ride the school bus in Germany with Priscilla Presley. I bet you didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad was an Air Force colonel, and we were living in Wiesbaden and lived down the street from Priscilla. And she came to Memphis maybe a year before we did. And she and my sister both tried out for cheerleader together, and neither one got it. Isn't that something a bratty little sister would say?
Neither one of them got it now.
Yeah, but Priscilla won in the end. She won Elvis.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a compelling story.
And I moved here in the 9th grade, went to Bellevue. Then I went to Central. Then I went to UT Knoxville. And then I tried my hand at the university back then, Memphis State Law School, and hated it and ran off to be an actress.
Well, you know what, though, Mr. Chairman? I think she stopped. Oh, I was about to say something. I think you're UT Knoxville. I was about to say she should have stopped when she said Knoxville.
No, go Vols. Good old Rocky Top.
Rocky Top.
But I came back to Memphis for graduate school and in theater and television because the dean made me take TV courses, and I ended up in TV.
Wow,
that's great. That's great. So I know that you've done it all. You've worked on film. You worked on television. One thing that comes to mind: The People versus Larry Flynt, to name one of the shows. What else have you sort of worked on that our listeners would be familiar with? I know it's a lot.
Well, I had to kind of stop doing the movies because even though I was giving my money to charity and having a great time doing the movies, we had a little PR problem where the public didn't so much like me doing the movies because I had taken that part from a local starlet. And so I chose to bow to pressure and voluntarily gave it up before they told me I had to give it up. And, but I did have a lot of fun being the real estate lady on Great Balls of Fire. And then the reporter on The People versus Larry Flynt. And yes, that's my real hair. I've had people come up and say, boy, that was a bad wig.
Get out of here.
But it was my real hair. And then the other one I played a news anchor on The Client.
Wow.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, before we do that, you're listening to the Chairman's Perspective powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. But Lynn, one thing I want to get into is the challenges you and your staff have at the Film and Television Commission in terms of recruiting that type of that type of work to Memphis and Shelby County. What are some of the challenges that you've seen over the time?
Well, back in the 90s and the late 80s, it was all about artistic reasons. And did the director like the locations, the photographs that we had sent him? of the locations that match the script. It was also about the experience that the director and the location manager had when they came here. Did they like the people? Did they? Mayor Morris and every mayor we've ever had has helped me recruit. People don't know that I take the clients up there and the mayors give them, their spiel about welcoming them, and they're a part of the recruitment process too. But now that it's incentives, it's really we're so dependent. We have been in the past dependent on the state because the significant incentives have come from the state. And we really, we're kind of like the poor country cousin, as were the other cities in the state. But then Nashville on the Nashville series was able to come up with $1 million as an incentive, and thanks to our city and county and Reed Dolberger and both mayors, we were able to take a place at the table and offer our own incentives. Pretty significant. I think it was $1.4 million.
I think that's right. Mm-hmm. Memphis has such beautiful scenery, and I think it's just untapped. What do you think would be the ideal show to be placed in Memphis? I mean, we've had a number of law movies. I know you mentioned it, Bluff City Law, and then, of course, we've had some of the films in the past, The Client and others. What other show do you think? I think that the Greenleaf Show comes to mind, and it's a show based in Memphis, but it's not actually shot in Memphis, and it's about church. And we're a bit church city. So it just seems like music or religion or some of those kinds of subject matters would just be ideal to be placed here. I mean, what do you think?
Yes, and so many people take our stories, so many other states take our stories because, we haven't had the incentives. But hopefully the state will reconsider their incentive plan. We now have our own incentive plan that applies to studios that are parts of conglomerates, like Comcast owns NBC.
Oh, wow. Yes, right. They sure do, don't they?
And then AT&T owns Disney. And so those conglomerates that have a presence in the state, Reed Dolberger can hopefully work his magic, and we can see. There's so much money to get back. People say, "Oh, you're giving them $1 million." We're investing it. We're not giving $1 million, and it's proven 5 times return. And I know that the state film commissioner, Bob Raines, had said that on the $10 million that they had requested as from the state as an incentive, there would be $55 million. They would have to spend $55 million in the state to get that money back, because the state incentive is based on in-state spend. I mean, they spend so much money. And then on the pilot of Bluff City Law, the biggest payrolls were carpenters and drivers. And
those are some jobs that are, of course, are readily available right here. So you're not talking any highly technical, I need a person who can do a 3D picture, all of that stuff. These are things that our people can handle.
Oh, yes. And we do have people like in the electrical departments and the camera departments. And those are skills that you have to learn and advance from project to project. Makeup for TV and film is a highly developed skill.
We've got a lot of makeup artists right here in the city.
And you have to have that opportunity to learn it. But, I know people from wealthy families that have become Teamsters because the pay is so good.
Well, that's great. And you just hold it right there. We'll be right back here on the Chairman's Perspective. And we're here with Lynn Sittler, who is the Commissioner for the Memphis and Shelby County Film and Television Commission. We'll be right back.
The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hey, I'm Williams Brack, co-host of Grind Set. The insight you gain from us and our guests will motivate you to take the leap into entrepreneurship. Make sure to check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast provider.
Grind Set on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Hi, this is Lynn Sittler, Memphis and Shelby County Film and Television Commissioner. And when I want to learn all things Shelby County, I tune in to The Chairman's Perspective on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or right here on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
And we're back here on the Chairman's Perspective. I am Van Turner Jr., your host, here with my co-host, DC.
Yes, sir. I'm sitting right here.
And we're sitting across from the world-famous Lynn Sittler, who is the chairperson and commissioner for the Memphis and Shelby County Film and Television Commission. And let's talk a little bit about this rival between us, and I don't even want to say the name of the city. Starts with the N, ends with the E.
And in between it means nothing at all.
All right, I'll go ahead
Nebraska.
and say it.
Nashville.
Oh, God, I thought you meant Nebraska.
No.
I spelled it wrong.
Well, before we do that, we're not rivals. We're partners.
That's right.
At
That's
work.
right.
No, I'm talking about Gail Carson. She's the chairperson. I want to make that clear.
That's right.
I want to make that clear.
Oh, wow.
And she's been a big help and
That's
went
absolutely.
to Nashville and lobbied and everything. But Nashville, it goes way beyond when film started.
Right.
There's always been a rivalry between Nashville and Memphis. And Steve Ross in Memphis, even made a movie about it called The Old Forest.
Wow.
And in it, there was dialogue that, referred to the rivalry, back, this maybe 1920 or 1900, the rivalry. But the issue with Nashville, and I worked at the State Film Commission for a year before I came here. When I decided to leave TV, I wanted to get into film, and I worked at the State Film Commission. And everything is centered in Nashville because it's the capital.
Right.
And it's easy to forget not only Memphis, but East Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, when I was there working at the State Commission, and there were just pictures, just drawers of photographs of Middle Tennessee. And then you got to Knoxville and Memphis, and maybe there was one drawer apiece. But now things are different. Ever since Bob Raines became the Tennessee Film Commissioner, is the industry name, he really has tried to be fair in doling out the incentives. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he and I have a good relationship, and he comes to Memphis a lot, he'll be coming this month, that has helped in reminding him. But, just in my trips to Nashville, I'll find out tidbits of information that are really important that we never would have known if I hadn't gone to Nashville. I think that there's that problem with all the outlying cities when, in relation to the capital city. If you're not in the capital city, you just don't know everything that's going on and even all the opportunities.
Do you all remember back in the day on our license plates, it had on there Memphis was 1, and then it had your number, and then Nashville was 2, and then it had your number. Mm-hmm. I think they're still kind of upset about that. We were number 1 for a long time, but I digress. Go ahead, Mr. Chairman. I digress.
So let's talk about economic impact. And so we've gone from the firm to Hustle and Flow, and now we are at Bluff City Law, which is the new show that we are excited to see come to the Bluff City. And what do you think about the economic impact of a TV series? This is not just a one movie that you would just see for one time. These are over episodes. And so what type of impact would that have on Memphis and Shelby County?
That's an interesting question, because I have said that this is the most important accomplishment in Memphis and Shelby County's film television history. And people say, well, what about the firm? What about the Rainmaker? What about those big projects? Well, the difference is that those were one-offs. They were great while they were happening. They were great when they were released, but just one time. A TV series, as you all know, could go on forever.
Right.
And they already, it's booked for foreign markets.
Wow.
And so we're going to be the value, quite frankly, to tourism is staggering. And I was at an event in Nashville where the Governor Haslam was attributing some Japanese business to Nashville, that when the executives got off their private jet, they immediately started asking, well, can we go to the Nashville set and all of this?
Right.
And I think that the economic impact in terms of tourism, in terms of positive exposure to the city, people wanting to come here.
Absolutely.
Relocate their businesses here. I think that it's going to be tremendous. And so we just all need to think positive thoughts and cross our fingers that the ratings are good, because this series was made for Memphis. This is perfect for Memphis.
I like the way it's made for Memphis.
That's right.
That's it, isn't it right, Mr. Chairman?
That's
Made for
right.
Memphis.
That's right.
Hey, you're listening to the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network. Before we get out of here, on this particular segment, I want to ask one thing I think that's burning in a lot of people's minds. What about local hires? People, it's going to make us look good as a city. It's going to probably bring as much tourism in here as we can handle. But what about the local folks looking for work?
Okay, good question. The Nashville TV series, when they started off, it was primarily people from L.A., the crew.
Ooh.
But then, as they were there longer and became more familiar with what was there in the city, you know, in terms of resources to hire, they started hiring Nashvillians. And then by season 2, they had lots of Nashvillians, and it ended up majority Nashvillians on that series. We hope the same thing happens here, but that it doesn't take them until season 2.
I know, right?
And NBC has a real commitment not only to local hires, but to diversity. They have incredible diversity programs. Go to the NBC Universal's website, and you'll see all the diversity programs that they have. And you'll feel all of this. When on the pilot, when I walked in the production office of the pilot, Bluff City Law, that was the most diverse production office I'd ever been in all my years. I don't mean to sound like Mother Time.
No.
But I do know
her, but no, it's okay.
I do know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So local hires, we've got an opportunity to really stand out and get some folks on set, get some folks maybe cast as well, right? So I know we were talking a bit offline a moment ago. I was listening to the radio today, and they were talking about, hey, Bluff City Law, go there and send your resume or something like that. I think you got some information on that, don't you?
Yes. And we put on our Facebook page yesterday morning the email address to send your resume to. Now, I want to be realistic. They do want experienced crew.
Sure.
But there are entry-level positions available for people who perhaps never have had experience or have had minimal experience, production assistant. And, you know, there's 2 types of production assistants. Well, actually, there's more than that. But generally speaking, there's office production assistants and there's set production assistants. Oh, wow. And I know when the pilot was looking for production assistants for the office, they were looking for people with computer skills. I won't kid you, it's going to be very competitive for all the jobs. And the ones, you know, like if you want to be a first AD, those jobs will probably be filled by somebody who's really experienced, whether he's from Tennessee, Memphis, or out of town. But you get down to the other jobs, you know, that are not first AD, but say more, you know, third AD, or you get into
third AD is third assistant director? Okay.
And then you get into the camera department, and they have, you know, it's just rankings. And so nobody, you know, should expect just to come in, you know, unless they have the experience, and get a job, you know, at the very top of each department. But hopefully if you know, I don't know, to tell you the truth, if people whose only experience with camera is doing commercials, I don't know if they would qualify, but they can certainly try and send their resumes in.
Send it in. Right.
Yeah, my mother always said, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Wow. That's absolutely right. So let's put a pin in it right there, and we'll be right back on the Chairman's Perspective, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Chairman. The Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Inside 901.
Inside 901. I am your host, Lieutenant Anthony Buckner. Here on Inside 901, we will unpack the vision of Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner and the various divisions of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office.
We have a racial profiling policy at the Sheriff's Office. We are here to it. We expect our officers to adhere to it.
Uniform patrols that provide police services to unincorporated Shelby County.
Inside 901.
KUDZUKIAN.
We're back on the Chairman's Perspective, and today we're talking about the Memphis and Shelby County Film and Television Commission. We're here with Lynn Sittler, who is the director, president, CEO,
guru,
all things great as it relates to film and TV here in Memphis. And Bluff City Law is coming to town. We're so happy and we're so elated.
Yeah.
But DC, my co-host, he had a burning question. And let it rip.
And look, I've been just sitting on this thing. We've had people like Craig Brewer to come to town who has done some phenomenal work here, right?
Right.
And especially in movies. And we have, I can't tell you the placemakers in terms of artists, 3-6 Mafia, all these guys, Yo Guy, all of these folks have blown up all over the world, and now they're pairing their craft in other states. Like I look at Georgia. Georgia just had some difficulty with the legislature. Now the governor, they've come out on some pretty strong terms on some things. And now Hollywood is saying, look, I don't think that Georgia is looking so good to us anymore. So does that look good for Tennessee in terms of, I believe we're from a scenic background of scenery. Mm-hmm. I think we got some of the same stuff Georgia's got. We got the rivers, we got the parks, we got the buildings, we got the people. Does that help us a little bit? The
bottom line is always incentives. Now, when you get an issue in play like that has been in play in Georgia, that offends the decision makers in Hollywood, then it becomes a different story. And the issue that you're talking about, the abortion rights,
yes,
is kind of going throughout the South.
Right.
And to me, there should be separate.
Yes,
there's work trying to give people food to put on the table, and then there's your opinion about different things. Mm-hmm. And I think in a free country, we should be able to get people jobs, like those carpenters and those drivers. And
those day people, right?
Yeah, and not affect their livelihood. And I think in Tennessee, we have to be very watchful that incentive, that legislation doesn't come across our General Assembly soon that would put us in the same situation as Georgia, where people are robbed of their jobs and of their health benefits because of a moral decision that really should have nothing to do with the workplace, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you're listening to the Chairman's Perspective on the KUDZUKIAN Network.
Mr. Chairman, what do you think about that in terms of, do you think also that we've got a chance now, I think, for a little town like Memphis, which is a big city to a lot of us, right? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking if the legislature if they remain calm, and they don't become reactionary like some other legislatures around the country, we may be able to say to Hollywood, look, we've got a very friendly environment. And I think that's what it all comes down to. You agree, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I agree. Now, they passed legislation which stated that if there was a change to Roe v. Wade, Tennessee would fall in line with that change. And they just stayed back from really passing any aggressive legislation, which we've seen in other states. So I think that was good, and I want to applaud the restraint that the Assembly had.
Because it could have gone south real easily, right?
It could have gone real bad. And just historically, Tennessee has always been sort of moderate. It hasn't really been too crazy conservative, and we've seen things change recently, but we've always sort of been there along with Arkansas. And if you recall, Arkansas and Tennessee have kind of been moderate, even when those southern states around Arkansas and Tennessee have really gone to the far right. So perhaps we're seeing some moderation take place like it's sort of been in the past, and we'll see what happens. But certainly I would agree with Lynn, to really hurt yourself economically over, something that shouldn't have anything to do with jobs or opportunities. It's really, something that, legislators should really think twice about. And so, the Supreme Court is going to have to deal with the issue. Let the Supreme Court deal with the issue. But in the meanwhile, why take food off of the plates of families who need, the food and the support, the opportunities, and the money.
And the cities need the money, right?
Right. So could you help paint a picture of site selection? So what would make Memphis even more appealing to Hollywood and New York as far as bringing films and bringing television shows here?
Not tear down any buildings. We've had beautiful Victorian Village.
Yes.
And we have unbelievable neighborhoods that could pass for the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s,
right.
and try to keep the integrity of our neighborhoods and of our downtown. And I know June West, can be controversial, but she deserves a medal, in my opinion, in terms of what she's done to help filming. And she works hand in hand with these projects that come in. Most people don't know that. And she does work hand in hand with them on research and things like that. And we're told, I've had Nashvillians say, oh, it's so good, Memphis isn't tearing down everything. Mm-hmm. We just have to find a way to, make progress and build what we want to build, but keep certain areas intact.
Right.
Keep them preserved.
Right. That's so important.
That's for you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. You can modernize things and not have to tear it up at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah. And so what does Memphis and Shelby County have to do to attract more shows like Bluff City? I think you just stated it. Keep keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep what makes Memphis intact. Work on incentives. Is there anything else that you can think of?
The more training that we can get, good training, not just surface training. The more good training we can get for our people to advance.
Yeah.
In everything, so that a production company would come in and they would look at them and they would say, yes, we've got 10 qualified people to choose from for one job.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
That's great. Well, this has certainly been a great show. We appreciate you being here with us.
Well, I appreciate being invited.
We have the guru here, Mr. Chairman, not just anybody.
That's right.
The guru of all film and television all over the world.
And I think after Bluff City airs and it really wins all these awards, we're going to have to bring you back, and you're going to have to tell everyone that I told you so.
This is how I did it right here.
This is an award-winning TV series. Now it's time to bring in more.
Yes, and we'll try to get Jimmy Smits on your show.
Oh, wow.
I think all the women in Memphis are so excited about Jimmy Smits.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. I love Jimmy Smits when he was on TV. Man, I tell you, he's a great guy.
Man, we've had a great show today, DC. What do you think?
You know what? There's about 3 words that come to mind with this lady who sat here with us. She's an icon in her own right,
Right.
Informative, transformational, breathtaking. I mean, I don't know, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if we could do it any better than that. Bluff City Law. I mean, she just sold it, man. She sold me on, hey, look, we got a lot of unlimited possibilities in what we can do in our city, right?
Absolutely. We're literally, truly on the move here in Memphis and Shelby County.
Yes, sir, we are.
No doubt about it.
No, sir. We are on the move right here in Memphis. There is actually momentum. I mean, that's an ugly word to some folks, but the term is momentum. I think we are moving in the right direction in a lot of places. There's nothing wrong with putting that word out there.
That's right. Well, as always, we're only a phone call, text, or email away here on The Chairman's Perspective. Hope you've enjoyed the program today, and we'll be back on the next time, right here on The Chairman's Perspective, powered by the KUDZUKIAN Network.
The Chairman's Perspective Podcast. Executive producer, Shelby County Commission's Van Turner. Hosted by Chairman Van Turner Jr. and Darrell DC Catron. Recorded at KUDZUKIAN Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by KUDZUKIAN.